Hello everybody and welcome to this presentation of the Elder Scrolls lore. We're going to do something a little different this time. I came to a realization a short time ago while working on this series. Although I'm a huge fan of the Elder Scrolls and its lore, I am woefully unfamiliar with many of the games themselves. The Elder Scrolls series began nearly a quarter century ago, with 5 main installments plus one on the way, and a few notable spin-offs to its name. My love of the series began with Morrowind, and was then extended to Oblivion and Skyrim. I did go back to play Daggerfall, but only scratched the surface. I barely touched the main story. I suspected that my experience was far from unique. So I asked some Elder Scrolls fans which games they had played. These were the results. When I asked the same people which main quests they had completed, the response looked like this. To me, these numbers suggest a few things. That the majority of Elder Scrolls fans are recent additions, that experience with the early games is scarce, and that full familiarity with their main stories is even more so. I have now made it my goal to help fill in some of those gaps. Naturally, we are going to begin with the first entry of the series, The Elder Scrolls Arena, released March 25th, 1994. Being the first game in the series, you might expect the story to be relatively simple. Well, you would be absolutely 100% correct in that assumption. However, just because it's simple, that doesn't mean it can't be interesting, so let's take a look. The year is 389 of the Third Era, and Emperor Uriel Septim VII rules over the entirety of Tamriel. Although the formerly warring nations of old have been unified under one banner, Tamriel remains a dangerous, hostile environment. The land is so perilous that locals have taken to calling it the Arena. In Uriel Septim's court, a similar hostility is brewing. The head of the Elder Council and chief battle mage, Jaeger Tharn, has grown to loathe his service to the Empire, seeing himself as little more than the Emperor's lackey. He decides that he himself is more fit and deserving to rule than Septim, and concocts a plan to make that desire a reality. Tharn would have to simultaneously impersonate the Emperor and get him out of the way, all without rousing any suspicion from the rest of the court. First, Tharn comes up with a simple pretext which would explain his absence. He explains to the Emperor that he must take temporary leave from his duties in order to pursue his magical studies abroad. The Emperor agrees to this, so long as Tharn finds someone to fill his vacant position in the meantime. Tharn appoints his top apprentice, Ria Silmane. Disposing of the true Emperor would be the difficult part. Simply killing him wouldn't do. A spell had been cast on Septim such that if he were to unexpectedly die, the Elder Council would be notified. So instead of killing him, Tharn hatches a scheme to imprison the Emperor in a location that would be both inescapable and impossible to discover. Tharn lures Septim by alerting him to a magical seal which suddenly appeared in the palace. The Emperor goes to investigate with some of his most trusted guards, and the battle mage traps them within a magical barrier. Before their eyes, Tharn transforms himself into the image of Uriel VII. He then summons a group of demonic minions, subsequently transforming them into Imperial guards. With the illusion complete, Tharn banishes his captives to another dimension, one in which the passage of time is much slower. By the time of the Emperor's eventual extra-dimensional death, the Septim name will have been forgotten. The distress call would still be sent, but no one on the Elder Council of the future would know for whom the bell tolls. After sending his victims to their eternal prison, Tharn touches the Staff of Chaos to his magical seal, closing the gateway. Being unable to completely destroy this powerful artifact, Tharn casts a spell which breaks the staff into 8 pieces and scatters the fragments to the deepest, most desolate places across Tamriel. It was a perfect plan executed flawlessly. Tharn would have gotten away with it were it not for Ria Silmane. She somehow learns of Tharn's scheme after the fact, and intends to inform the Elder Council of his treachery. Tharn discovers this and mercilessly kills her, figuring that this would forever put an end to Silmane's meddling. He was wrong. Ria Silmane was a strong sorceress in her own right. As she died, she managed to keep her soul within the mortal plane. She would not be able to travel far from her body, nor could she take any direct action to stop Tharn. After an unknown period of time, possibly years after Silmane's death, fate delivered the person who could set everything right. In the prison of the Imperial Palace is where our hero's journey begins. According to Irina's manual, this person is Talon, the head of the Imperial Palace Guard and close friend of Ria Silmane. The details of Talon's imprisonment are not expounded upon. According to current lore, however, this individual has no identity. They were simply the right person in the right place at the right time, known to history as the Eternal Champion. Ria Silmane appears in incorporeal form before the prisoner in their cell. She explains what Tharn has done, and pleads for help in bringing the evil battle mage to justice. Simply informing the Elder Council is no longer an option. Silmane wouldn't be able to appear to them directly, so it will be the word of a convict against that of the supposed Emperor. No, the only way to deal with Tharn would be to take him down directly, and to free the true Emperor from captivity. Silmane advises the would-be champion to enter the shift gate which she has opened a short distance from their cell. The portal would transport them to relative safety, away from the center of the Empire. She then imparts her spirit onto the mind of the champion, enabling the two to communicate across vast distances, but only through dreams. The vision of Silmane departs, and the hero is left to escape. Fortunately, there is a key inside the prisoner's cell, which opens the lock. Our hero escapes the Imperial dungeon through the sewers, enters Silmane's shift gate, and begins their epic journey. As soon as the champion has gathered their strength and resolve, Silmane appears in their dreams. She explains that they must journey across the length and breadth of Tamriel in order to reassemble the Staff of Chaos. Using it, the interdimensional portal can be reopened, and the true Emperor restored to his throne. The first piece of the staff would be found at Fang Lair, an ancient stronghold deep in the province of Hammerfell. Silmane couldn't tell the exact location, so the champion would have to discover it on their own. They do so, make their way to Fang Lair, and recover the first piece of the staff. Afterwards, an image of Jaeger Tharn appears before the champion. "Give up the staff piece and your death will be painless," he says before dispatching his minions. A battle ensues and our hero prevails. Upon resting after their ordeal, the champion is visited again by Silmane, whereupon she informs them of the location of the next fragment of the Staff of Chaos. So it goes. The brave adventurer journeys to find the next piece of the staff at Labyrinthian in the province of Skyrim, then to Elden Grove in Valenwood, the Halls of Colossus in Elsewhere, the Crystal Tower in Somerset Isle, the Crypt of Hearts in High Rock, Mirkwood in Blackmarsh, and to Dagoth in the heart of Red Mountain in Morrowind. Each time, Tharn dispatches his minions to deal with the champion. Each time, they fail. With all 8 pieces of the Staff of Chaos in the champion's possession, Ria Silmane appears for the last time. She reveals that although the staff is complete, one more item will be needed in order to open the portal. Jaeger Tharn has suffused the energy of the staff into another powerful artifact, the Jewel of Fire, which also serves as the vessel of Tharn's life force. Simply touching the fully reassembled staff to the jewel would discharge all of the power contained within, releasing the Emperor and simultaneously destroying Tharn. The task would not be easy. The Jewel of Fire would be under heavy guard within the Imperial Palace, which has been closed off to all outside visitors. Ria Silmane uses the last of her remaining power to cast an illusion onto the champion, changing their appearance to one which will allow them to slip past the palace guards. With that, Silmane wishes luck to the fated champion on the last chapter of their journey, and bids her final farewell. Our hero enters the Imperial Palace with the help of Silmane's disguise. They get past the Imperial guards stationed on the main level, then make their way down into the bowels, and fight through the most powerful fiends that Tharn can muster in his defense. Before long, the champion confronts the battle mage himself. Tharn sustains critical injuries in the ensuing fight. Before the final blow is struck, the villain erects a magical barrier around himself. That is when the champion strikes their true target. They go straight to the nearby Jewel of Fire, draw out the Staff of Chaos, and prepare to bring the two into contact. Tharn cries out in panic, but it's too late. The moment the staff touches the jewel, Jaeger Tharn melts away. The staff spins around until it glows with brilliant light, and a portal opens for a brief instant, allowing the Emperor and one of his guards to emerge from the other side. Jaeger Tharn is dead, and Uriel Septim VII is restored to the throne. As thanks for their unparalleled service to the Empire, Septim proclaims that our hero is to be known thereafter as the Eternal Champion, and is invited to take their place by the Emperor's side to execute his will. So concludes the story of the Elder Scrolls Arena. The adventure may be over, but we are still left with many unanswered questions. What was the ultimate fate of the Eternal Champion? What did Jaeger Tharn accomplish during his reign? How did Tharn acquire an artifact as powerful as the Staff of Chaos? And most crucial of all, how did that key conveniently end up inside the champion's cell? Answers to all of these questions will have to wait until next time. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you on the next presentation of the Elder Scrolls lore.